What's up, beautiful people? Today we're going to be checking out a clip from Jordan Peterson. This one is exposing the whole damn thing before they got to me. It makes me very curious. I don't know what to expect, but I'm excited for this one. Let's get to it.
Like there's a hidden agenda behind the chaos and confusion of our times. Are you tired of being told what to think and believe? Well, you are not alone. Jordan Peterson has fearlessly peeled back layers upon layers of deception, exposing the puppet masters orchestrating the grand scheme. Get ready to have your mind blown as we uncover the shocking truth behind the system of ideas and their nefarious plans to reshape our world.
Do you feel that you're dealing with
I love his suit.
Or do you know, there's this biblical idea that what we war against is principalities. And I think of a principality, one variant of a principality is a system of ideas.
Yeah.
And I think, well, there's no, in a way, there's no they. There's a system of ideas that's a set of animating principles.
Sure.
Right? And it partially inhabits a multitude of people.
Well,
right?
I think there are two answers to this. There's a very diffuse they. If we say the woke, we generally know that we're speaking about people who think in certain ways, that they've adopted some of this power analysis. But it's very diffuse.
Yeah.
And maybe it's only a small amount, and maybe it's a great amount, maybe it's on this issue and not.
Right.
But then there are the people who pay for it. And I mean with large sums of money. They're a very distinct they.
That's the
Somebody
problem.
has decided to pour the gasoline into this fire. And they decided.
Do you think that they have any sense? They again.
These people? I think they know exactly what they're doing with it. That they are disrupting Western civilization so that they can recolonize it with their own position. And this is why I get called a conspiracy theorist online, despite the fact that they basically write this in their books themselves.
And for you, who are the primary actors in that they?
Well, there's a front that I usually typically name that is obviously the people that are the public face of this.
Okay.
And these are people at the World Economic Forum, overwhelmingly centrally.
Did you read Klaus Schwab's Great Reset?
I did.
It's
and
quite the aggregation of cliches. I got about a third of the way through it, and I thought, no, I just can't do this anymore.
The Great Narrative, his second book that he wrote, well, it's his fourth really, but the second book he wrote in that series is much more poignant. But the way that he writes is, it's maybe 130 pages of a book, or I don't know, it's not that long. And it's business cliche, terrifying pair of paragraphs, business cliche. And so there's
Yeah.
So if you read it in regards to the fact that the meat, it's a lot of fun and a very little burger.
His camouflage is manager speak. So there is a compassion.
So you're asleep
camouflage.
before you get anywhere.
Right. Well, I did notice too that a lot of the things I saw at universities that were really deep falsehoods weren't compassion; they were manager speak.
Manager speak. That's right.
Yeah, manager speak.
If you read something and it's putting you to sleep,
you made those together. Right?
It was probably designed to put you to sleep, so you don't see.
Yeah, manager speak is what people on the administrative front who have absolutely no ability cloak themselves in so they look competent.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Oh yeah. It's
so here
in
the middle, almost squarely in the middle of the Great Narrative for a Better Future, which is the follow-up book to the Great Reset.
It's called Narrative for a Better Future.
The Great Narrative for a Better Future. You can't make this up.
I got to read that.
And so right in the middle, he has this set of paragraphs. It's maybe 5 paragraphs, but it covers 3 ideas. And number 1, we're going to force all of the corporations to adopt ESG standards, and we're going to do that through top-down manipulations of the public-private partnership, governments, and big business working.
So that's what everybody's been talking about on TikTok. Nowadays, because I get so much information and a lot of comments these days, I just be thinking, maybe they're just speculating. But people have been speaking on this. I think Patrick Bet-David also commented on this. At this point, I don't know if it's speculative anymore, because he said it was on the book. But it's a real thing. Surprising.
Together,
fascism, in other words.
Fascism with
compulsion.
With the NGOs being the coordinating entity. So the World Economic Forum is a hub that connects these things, which means there's something probably behind it that's a different they that's really organized.
That's the Legion, by the way.
Yes.
People behind it.
And then so secondly, we're going to transform the youth to demand ESG. They won't work in a company, they won't buy from a company, etc., unless they're ESG compliant. We're going to change the youth culture. And then third, we're going to rewrite the social contract to accept this new norm.
Only those 3 things.
Only those 3 things. Very nefarious.
But why?
And he repeats
Well, he's
this.
got the uniform for it.
He did the space
and the accent.
Yeah, well,
central casting.
Central casting, that's right.
Yeah, he needs a crow on his shoulder.
Yeah. or a bald cat to pet.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah,
so he says this speech earlier this year, an interview. He says that we're going to rewrite the social contract. He says this again and again. But he says specifically this time, we're going to rewrite the social contract so that society accepts as we move from an economy of production and consumption to an economy, and I kid you not, Jordan, of caring and sharing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's communism.
I mean, because productive generosity on the free market front hasn't worked.
Correct.
Right. Because it hasn't lifted more people out of poverty since the year 2000 than lifted out of poverty in the entire history of humanity before that.
Yeah, but climate change.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is
that's so interesting, that like I've got a couple. Here's some. Tell me what you think about these ideas. So tyrants use fear to produce compulsion. They're after compulsion. They want to aggregate the power, and so they use fear. And apocalyptic fear is the best sort of fear to use.
Of course.
Right. And so now you can tell the tyrants, because everybody wants to know who's listening. How do you tell the tyrants from the real leaders? Okay, the tyrants will frighten you into compulsion, and they'll use the crisis and the catastrophe to justify the compulsion. And you might say, well, there's a real crisis, and the right answer to that is
pandemic.
There's always an
would be an example.
crisis.
That's right.
That's a universal, eternal truth. And it's partly because all of us die. It's partly not because you die and I die, but also because every single person we know, our whole culture, everything we know will die.
Yeah.
So the apocalypse is always there, and sometimes that happens dramatically, and sometimes it happens incrementally, but it happens.
Yeah.
And so we're always facing apocalyptic crises.
Yeah.
Because of that, and then you say, well, in spite of that, you can have a form of government that's not a tyranny. Well, not if you use the fear of the apocalyptic crisis to compel and to aggregate power. And so any leader who tells you that the crisis is so intense that it necessitates emergency compulsion, that's a tyrant.
That's exactly right.
And then there's another corollary to that, which is, imagine you're tyrannical and you are genuinely frightened by this crisis. Then I would say, your nervous system has indicated by the paralysis of your fear that you're too small a knight for that dragon. Right, and so you shouldn't be parading yourself around as a leader. It's like, no, you're a frightened tyrant. You're not a leader. And we can tell you're not a leader because you're a frightened tyrant.
I think I know a leader like that. Some of you might. Let me know what you think I'm talking about.
Right. If you were a leader, even in the face of a crisis, you would keep your head.
That's right.
And you wouldn't use compulsion.
That's right.
So all these apocalyptic nightmare mongers who are saying, well, we're going to burn up the planet. It's like, yeah, that and 10 other apocalypses, by the way. That doesn't mean you get to centralize all the power and take it for yourself and use compulsion. And I really started to understand that as far as I was concerned, I was at war. When I saw that the leftist, radical, narcissistic, malignant types were willing to sacrifice the poor to their climate scam.
That's right.
Right? So, well, let's crank up energy prices. Well, why? Well, because renewables, because climate. It's like, do you know who you're going to hurt with high energy costs? You're going to destroy the marginal, right? Because all you have to do is energy and food. There's no bloody difference. Those people are barely clinging on to the edge of reality. You crank up energy prices 10%, you wipe out like 20 million people.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's okay, sir, because, there are too many people on the planet anyways. It's like, yeah, I know who's speaking in that voice.
Yeah, exactly.
You bet, right? The great cosmic joker. Yeah, there's too many people.
Who's that?
Yeah.
I watch people actually say that. I think, do you know who's speaking out of your mouth? God.
A lot of people don't really know they're being manipulated. I don't think a lot of people know.
Stunning.
So you know what the great narrative is for a better future. He says it explicitly. This is closer to the end of the book. He, in one paragraph, says what the great narrative is after he makes his case. You saw the punchline is centralization of power, transformation of the universe, or whatever. The great narrative is we face multiple existential crises, climate change, pandemics. Exactly. The four horsemen. We face multiple existential crises, the poly crisis, they call it now.
Yeah.
Therefore, we need greater global cooperation, which of course is going to have to be managed
globalism.
by a system
the
of
Chinese are
stakeholders.
wandering down that road real fast.
Yeah.
700 million CCTVs, right? And gate recognition. Oh,
Yeah.
such fun, right?
Smile for the government. I saw a
bet,
video
you
that it showed the guy scan his face to go through the gate,
Yeah.
and it didn't let him. It didn't open, and it said in Chinese. It says, I don't read Chinese, but it was translated. Smile. So I assume it's true. Smile for the government. And he smiled, and it opened. Could you imagine?
Yes.
Well,
yes,
of
I've
course.
been in airports. I can imagine.
Yeah, yes, of course.
I hate
in my
airports.
pocket now is my passport from the last time I went to China. I keep a little slip of paper they gave after they took all of my fingerprints, my handprints, and scanned my eyes just to go through immigration. The last time I went to Beijing in 2019. So I carry it. It's completely faded. You know, it's a heat transfer.
Soon the drone is coming your way, buddy.
Exactly.
Yeah, the gate recognition drone. Nice poison dart for you.
Yeah, exactly. This is very scary. But that's it. There's
Skynet.
your tyrant, though.
We're building the good Skynet. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Building the good Skynet.
The good Skynet.
The
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah.
Wow. It's
And so the ESG openly is there to serve
BlackRock and Larry Fink,
BlackRock
by the way.
and the United
Vanguard.
Nations,
Evil Central.
because they're set up to establish the reign of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of what they call Agenda 2030.
I helped write those goddamn things, you know.
Oh no!
And I got to tell you too, we worked on that document back in 2012.
Do you know why there are 17 of them? I'm
Well,
relentlessly curious about.
No, I don't know. When we helped write the document, there were like 170, and one of the criticisms that I kept levying is like, hey guys, guess what? You can't have 170 priorities.
Right.
You can have one priority because that's what makes it a priority. And I tried to find out why there were 170, and the answer was, well, there's 170 different constituents to please, and we don't want to offend anyone. It's like, oh, you mean you don't want to do anything? It's like, well, yeah, that is, wink, wink. No, that's what we mean, but we don't usually say that.
Sure, of course.
Right, and that, I would say in my defense, such as it is, that if you think the document that was produced in 2012 was bad, you should have seen what it was like before it got edited.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, right. Well, one of the things I did realize after going through that process was that, well, apart from the fact that it was preposterous to have 170 goals, that no one had rank ordered the goals in any halfways intelligent way. There was no cost benefit analysis. And then Bjorn Lomborg's team started to do that.
Right.
Bjorn wrote a book a while back called How to Spend $75 Billion to Make the World a Better Place, which is an intelligent approach to, I wouldn't say the poly crisis, because that isn't how he frames it. But, if we were actually going to try to help lift the remaining people in abject poverty out of poverty, Lomborg has shown that there are ways that are far less expensive than the trillions of dollars that we will waste not fixing the climate, just like they've not fixed the climate in Germany. Right? Germany, what a catastrophe, eh? The bloody and energy costs are now 5 times as high. Unreliable, dependent on Putin and other dictators around the world, right? And they're burning lignite, so per unit of energy, they actually produce more pollution than they did before they started the Green Revolution, right? And their response to that criticism is, we have to do stupid things. We have to do stupid virtue signaling, destructive things faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. God.
Yeah.
Stunning. Net zero.
Net zero.
Right. Zero for you.
Well, have you seen the absolute zero as well? That's beyond net zero. This is a project, a think tank project that came out in 2019 from UK FIRES, FIRES, which is a conglomeration of the British government and Cambridge and Oxford and University College London, or whatever that's called. And all of this lays out the idea that, and of course, this is just the Overton window stretching. We should take it seriously, but it's probably not what will happen.
Yeah.
Right? But they argue that net zero is not nearly enough. We must have absolute zero. And absolute zero.
No, they're saying what they mean.
Absolute zero emissions
That's where
by
everyone
2050.
freezes.
That's
absolute zero? Is it possible though? Can we really? Because I don't think the emission is just caused by human and production. I think somebody made a theory that also, I think, farm animals and water animals, aquatic animals also emits all these things they're trying to stop. So are they going to kill all the animals? How are they going to do it? I heard they're trying to kill like 2,000 cows already. I don't know if that's true, but I don't know if you guys heard that. Let me know if you heard that they're trying to kill 2,000 cows to stop emissions.
Openly in the document say people should start buying warmer clothing now.
Especially old people, but they're cluttering up the emergency rooms.
That's right.
Anyway.
No air
warmer
travel.
clothing.
I know. No France
container
banned
ship.
short-haul flights, eh?
Yeah.
And 2 weeks ago, between any two cities that were connected by rail. I know the absolute plan is, well, this is what I said. Net zero means, all you peasants who are watching and listening, you should pay attention to this. Net zero means zero for you. That's what it means. And by plan, you little people, you don't need cars. God, who needs a private automobile? I knew 15 years ago that the bloody totalitarians would go after the cars.
Sure.
Because nothing screams freedom like a 350 horsepower Mustang in the hands of a 16-year-old boy. It's like, no, we got to clamp down on that.
That's
like
right.
He can go wherever he wants and do whatever he wants, cluttering up the planet and producing carbon.
Yeah.
So it's like no cars, right? The goal is 90% reduction in private automobile ownership.
90%.
Well, you can have an electric car. It's like, no, the grid can't sustain electric charging. Well, how will we deal with that? How about you peasants don't get to have cars?
That's right.
Right. No cars, no flights, no meat, no heat, no air conditioning.
No container shipping.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, who needs goods?
So we go back to our neo-Marxist Herbert Marcuse writing in '64 in One Dimensional Man, and what is he saying? What's his argument? He says, well, the problem with socialism is it can't produce. The problem with capitalism is it's not sustainable. It overproduces and ends up destroying
So we need
itself.
unsustainable non-production.
Correct.
Right. That's the socialist solution.
And so,
how about we have the best? How about we have the worst of both worlds?
Yeah. And so he says, what do we have to do? We have to start getting used to less, lower standards of living, fewer gadgets.
We,
not
right.
Or you.
Right.
Not
and
him.
all the people
Me
who will
too.
be getting us used to lower standards of living will be flying around in their private jets, deciding how to do that, eating steak.
That's right. Of course. Of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the system.
So you are a conspiracy theorist fundamentally.
Well, I mean, I fundamentally reject the word theorist. I don't think it's a theory. I think that they're open
But it's a conspiracy,
about
yeah?
their collaboration. And so...
Yeah, well, that's so interesting, because we have Antifa, right? And at the same time, we have actual fascism. And everything that Antifa attacks has nothing to do with the actual fascism.
That's right.
Yeah, so there's another great cosmic joke for you.
Yeah, the anti-fascists are supporting a gigantic conglomeration of governments and large banks and industry. Isn't that all working
Pharmaceutical
together?
companies and
Pharmaceutical
legacy
companies.
media.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah, it's really
The cosmic jokes are piling up.
Yeah, well, I've been posting pictures of evil clowns lately, and people think they're wondering what the hell I'm up to, which form of insanity has now gripped me. It's like I realized that Satan is an evil clown, right? I started to understand that, when I encountered the sign that was over Auschwitz, because the sign that was over Auschwitz was Arbeit macht frei, which means work will make you free.
Right.
It's like I thought, that's a joke. Then I thought, who would tell a joke in Auschwitz?
Himmler.
Right. Well, yeah, but who's the spirit behind Himmler, right? Who's the great cosmic joker? And then also mutual assured destruction, right? The acronym for years was MAD. I thought, oh, that's a joke too.
Yeah.
Right. It's all these jokes,
Well,
and then I watched The Death of Stalin. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, it's great. It's a movie about.
I've heard.
Oh, it's so great because
The Russian
it portrays the brutal reality of the Soviet Union. There are terrible, murderous, raping, catastrophic things going on in the background of the movie nonstop. And then there's these 5 jokers, one of whom is Stalin and the rest of his evil crew. And they're bumbling parodies, right? Everything's a parody. And I realized that after really thinking about that and thinking about that motif of the joker and the clown, which has become so prevalent in modern culture, I thought, I see, when things become totalitarian, they turn into a parody, right? Like Dylan Mulvaney's a parody. And what's happening to women's sports is a parody. And what North Face is doing with their advertising is a parody. And it's like, oh yes, that's right.
And what Awaken with JP is doing is a parody.
Satan is an evil clown.
All comes together.
What did Marcuse write in '69? He wrote in Essay on Liberation that it's crucial that the resistance, meaning them, the radicals, take on the form. He said that the clownish forms that so irritate the establishment. It must become an antinomian revolution. It must.
Right, everything upside down.
Everything upside down.
Everything
becomes, and then so Judith Butler talks about the politics of parody. You get this kind of despair. We'll never
I didn't know any of that had been actually laid out as strategy.
Yeah, politics of parody, the clownish forms that irritate the establishment. I remember reading this because, of course, Clown World is the meme on the internet. They call it.
Yeah.
And I'm reading Marcuse, and I stumble on this, take on the clownish forms. It's like, oh my God, Clown World was a plan.
Right. The only thing about the evil clowns is they're not funny. Right, that's the big
they're not funny.
No, they're not funny. That's right. They're not funny at all. It's not funny at all. Right. And so, and that's quite interesting too, because one of the things you see about the totalitarian left is they really hate comedians. So they love parody, but they hate comedy.
That's right.
Right. And it's got to be parody of the darkest form.
Yeah, it's always dark or almost intentionally stupid or destructive. Yeah, every time. Every time. Grotesque, frequently grotesque.
Yeah, frequently monstrous. Yeah.
And it's never funny.
Okay, so how do you know you're not just crazy?
You know, that's a question I ask myself when I try to react to videos. Like, I keep watching all these videos. Am I going down a rabbit hole? Am I going mad? Like, if I'm saying the same thing as Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, are we all crazy? Like, you know, I think about those things sometimes.
I ask myself that a lot too, and I don't know that I have a really great answer for that.
Is your wife sane?
She seems to be pretty sane. She's very grounded.
Okay, well that's helpful, and she still likes you.
She very much likes me, and she's very convinced that I'm not crazy.
She likes
she has
you.
a very good
You could
reason.
have a fall,
That's a good thing.
right? You could both be crazy. Do you have friends?
It's a few, yeah.
Are they sane?
Some of them not. Maybe, I don't know. It's a weird world we occupy, but yeah, most of them
sure
are.
it
Most
is.
of them are.
Well, that's one of the ways you can check, right? Is you want to have people around you, especially if you're playing in this abysmal realm. Let's say you bloody well want to have people around you who will give you the straight story.
Give you the straight.
You'll get demented and bent out of shape. You know, what did Nietzsche say about the abyss? Right?
Right.
You stare into it, and it stares back.
That's right. That's right.
Right. And if you fight with monstrous forms, you have to be very careful that you don't become monstrous yourself. Right. And I don't think you can do that yourself. I think you have to have people around who are going, tapping you into shape.
Hey.
Yeah. Keep the humility up and the gratitude.
That was a very interesting conversation. You know, I mentioned in one of my videos that these days I listen to everything because the things they used to tell us was conspiracy or was conspiracy theories. They turned out to be true. Kind of like the people that were spreading conspiracy theory, they turned out to be prophets. They were prophesying. So these days I do two things. Either I admit everything or I shut off everything. Because if you admit so much, you can just go down the rabbit hole. And like they were talking at the end, it could seem like you're going crazy. But they had a very important conversation right there, especially the ESG score. They spoke about China. I don't know if you guys have seen the video trending about China, where the government can basically use a camera to tell everybody they have like an identification number for everybody. And now you can buy food with your face and all of those things. These are prophecies that are kind of like similar to things in the Bible. Remember the arm thing and the forehead thing. I don't know if I'm overthinking it. I might be, I might be going crazy. I don't know. There's nobody around me to check me right now. But that was a very interesting conversation. They spoke about the ESG, his core. Patrick Bet-David spoke about the same thing. I believe we also saw a video about BlackRock and Vanguard. And the funny thing is they're using your money, your investment money to do all these things. You're the ones strengthening them. The power of the people, that's how these people are getting the strength from. You know, the billionaires, the rich people, you're the ones buying the products. And it's quite crazy. It's crazy. They spoke about the pandemic. They said there's a new pandemic coming out in 2025. I don't know if you guys have been watching these guys from Redacted TV. Yeah, if you don't know Redacted TV, go check them out. They're the ones, I think they're even better than the media. Honestly, I must confess. They tell us the things the media is not telling us, because all the media says is Donald Trump indicted, Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that, Donald Trump. Nobody really speaks about what is going on in China, Ukraine, and the pandemic people are talking about. I think Redacted TV might be the best media platform right now. Yeah, maybe Valuetainment could be another one. But yeah, let me know what you think about that video. A lot was said, I don't even think I can remember everything, but if you think this is conspiracy, talk to me. If you agree everything they said, also talk to me. You don't have to agree, but at least be open-minded to at least listen. Sometimes I don't agree with all these videos I watch, but I still watch them, I still try to listen. Hopefully they are not corrupting my mind while I'm listening. It's the end of this video. Smash the like button, subscribe, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
I made this bed on my own.